Science Mind Magazine Daily Guides. Today's reading, I read it a couple of times and then I was trying to think what it meant to me, and I started remembering different things about our extended family. But anyway, here's the read. First of all, here's the reading, and then here's some comments from me on it. First quote is from Michael Singer. He's quite well known, especially for the book, The Untethered Soul. And he says, if you're doing something to avoid pain, then pain is running your life. And of course, here he's talking mostly about mental anguish and that kind of thing. But anyway, more about that later. Ernest Holmes in Know Yourself, he says, as we go to meet it, it comes to meet us. Some page 25. I think in the original meaning of this, I think Ernest Holmes, I got to read the context, but I think the original meaning of this for Ernest Holmes was, as we go to meet spirit, spirit comes to meet us. But it could also have other interpretations, especially in the context of what we're thinking about now. Anyway, so here's the rest of the reading before I make any more comments. In The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer offers a simple yet profound illustration of the thorn, a metaphor for our deepest wounds. And of course, here he's not talking about physical wounds. He says, when hurt, instead of removing the thorn, we often reshape our entire lives to protect it. We design clothing to avoid brushing against it, build walls to keep others from getting too close, and organize our days around avoiding pain. The thorn remains, yet we call this living. Michael Singer asks, what would it take to remove the thorn entirely? Not to erase the past, but to release our identification with it, to stop letting the wound define our actions, our relationships, our joys. And this is Rev David Alexender, who says, recently a teacher in my Buddhist meditation training used a turn of phrase that caught my attention. What are you devoted toward? We're devoted to many things, people, causes, even our wounds. But devotion toward something is different. It speaks to direction, to movement, to the essence of where our energy flows. Am I devoted toward freedom, or am I merely devoted to my pain? Am I devoted toward love, or toward proving my story of separation? Toward healing, or toward protecting what hurts me? Removing the thorn is not a single action, but a devotion. It is a turning of the heart toward liberation, toward living unguarded, toward seeing beyond old definitions of who we are. When we orient devotion toward truth, every moment becomes a step closer to home, a life led by love and not fear. Well, I think in here he also is kind of mixing up devotion to and devotion toward, but that's another story. I'll tell you what it reminded me of. I don't really remember how it all came about, but and it goes back decades. But one family group, which is part of our extended family, have been separated for a long, long time. There have been minor efforts to bridge the gap, but they never work. They're still poles apart. And it's kind of sad. And to be honest, every single day I hold in prayer for their reunion, for their getting back together. It's one member of the family is separated from the rest. And this kind of reminded me that how much hurt is actually going on, and how much are they each living their lives probably avoiding mentioning the other members of the family or the other member of the family, depending which side of the fence you're on. And I don't think there's anything in my life right now that is doing that. You know, my mother, when my father died, I don't think she ever really got over it, because she did, to some extent, now that I think about it, having read this, she did devote her life toward avoiding looking at the pain of the loss of her husband. And I think to some extent it ruined the rest of her life. She had lots of opportunities to get married again, and one, funnily enough, was to an American guy who she met at an airport in the UK, but she never did. And I think that it really caused a big strain within her. And I think, as I said, I don't think she ever got over it. And I think that that thorn, which was a huge one, granted, right? I think it controlled her life to a large extent ever after that. I think had she been able to get over that, she would have been a much happier person. So anyway, so I'm going to give this some more thought. And I've also got to give some more thoughts about devotion to and devotion toward. Am I devoted toward love, or am I devoted to love? I think I'm devoted toward love. I'm devoted toward peace. And I'm devoted to my family. So what's the distinction there, you know? But I don't think there's anything in my life right now that I need to let go of in this regard. But who knows? Maybe it's something I've buried deep down. And often the thing is, when things happen in our life, when we go through trauma, we often bury it. And it's not in our conscious memory. And oftentimes we don't know why we're behaving in certain ways. And that thorn that they talk about here, Michael Singer talks about, and then Reverend David talks about, it's not always something that's really visible. And it's not until you go through some kind of psychotherapy or some kind of inner child work that you actually start to realize what it is and you can let it go. So letting go of the thorns is not always easy, but if you really do have these things and something's bothering you, sometimes it pays to seek professional advice, whether that be a practitioner, a minister, a psychotherapist, psychiatrist, and sometimes even just a friend. Sometimes we need to do that to get rid of these things. So those are my rambling thoughts on the thorn. Today I turn my devotion toward freedom and opening my heart to unguarded love. Today I turn my devotion toward freedom and opening my heart to unguarded love. So, hey, that's it for today, folks. Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. I will be back hopefully around about 5 o'clock tonight. Yeah, maybe it'll be earlier because tomorrow, this is a commercial for anybody who lives anywhere near Springville, Woodlands. Every single year, a group called Faith Together puts on an event for Thanksgiving. It's always the Tuesday before Thanksgiving week. So it's tomorrow. Different faith groups from around the area, I mean, as diverse as Christian, Muslim, and Hindu. Between us all, we put on this event, which is this time it's called Prisms of Faith, and each faith group will present something. Like sometimes it will be dance. Creative Life Spiritual Center is doing a combination of a poem written specially for the event, and it's been accompanied by music, by our music director, and also by one of our members who is a wonderful dancer. She's a former member of the Royal Ballet in London and the Houston Ballet. So that is going to be our contribution, but there are lots. And it's going to be at the Hindu Temple of the Woodlands. It's tomorrow evening, and it will start. What time does it start? It starts at, I think, 6:30. I should know. I'm a member of the committee. But anyway, it starts tomorrow. I'm going to the rehearsal tonight at about 6:30. So if you're a member of Creative Life Spiritual Center, it's actually in our weekly email. So look it up. So anyway, that's the plug. And I will mention it again tomorrow. So my prayer for everybody today is that I know for each and every person watching this, listening to this, contemplating this reading, including myself, that I know each and every person is able to begin to allow the release of any thorns that have been puncturing their lives and move in the direction of love. And I claim this is truth. I release my word in gratitude, calling it done, and so it is.